We have an amazing panel lineup for you today. We're going to be talking about AI in the room, but we're going to hear directly from some operators. We have 4 different unique perspectives that we're going to bring to the table today. We have an operator who's seeing the impacts of AI on his organization, how it's impacting workflow, how it's creating efficiencies. We have another operator who is creating a company that helps brokerages automate some of the back office and create some efficiencies in their business. We have an operator who is building a SaaS company and works with many of the biggest brokerages in the country, and he's going to bring a perspective about how an AI workforce can create a ton of efficiency in your business. And then finally, we have somebody who works at a multi-billion-dollar organization and is starting to see the data flywheel effect and how that's creating compounding advantage for some companies in real estate and not for others. So please help me welcome these panelists to the stage. All right, so we got a killer lineup here. I'm just going to go down the line and have everyone introduce themselves briefly because we have 20 minutes and we have a ton of content to get through. So Cheyenne, let's start with you.
Hi everybody, I'm Cheyenne Hamidi, CEO and founder of Rechat. We're an operating system that powers up a lot of the brokerages. A lot of my friends are here today.
Hello, I'm Austin Allison and I am CEO of Pacaso. Pacaso is like NetJets for luxury homes. We enable people to buy an eighth or a quarter of a luxury home, and we manage the whole experience. We also have a global swap network in about 75 markets around the world, and we partner with real estate agents to help them convert more window shoppers into homeowners and to win more listings.
I'm Joe Rath. I'm head of industry for Rocket Companies.
Hi everyone, I'm Divya Atrish. I'm the founder and CEO of Max Home. We are using AI to simplify brokerage operations.
All right, so I want to start with you, Austin. Austin, you and I have known each other for, I don't know, 15 years now, and you've had experience with building Loop and getting acquired by Zillow, and then going on and founding a company with Spencer Rascoff, the former CEO of Zillow. I want to know from you how AI is impacting the organization. Like, talk to me about org structure and how AI has impacted the roles.
Well, I could talk about this for hours, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. And I'll start just by sharing that I have been what most people would describe as a very pro-AI CEO from the very beginning. I mean, for the last year and a half or so, this has been a real focus of mine. But about 6 months ago, I started recognizing that other founders, CEOs in my circle were way further along than I was. I saw non-tech founders basically like rebuilding their entire company from scratch. And I realized that I was missing something. So I blocked my calendar and I spent a couple of days just going deep on, vibe coding. And I saw what could not be unseen. All the things that were being talked about in the media as like this future state that AI is going to enable, I learned that it is already here right now. So once I saw it, I decided that we had no choice but to go all in on this. And I committed to rebuilding Pacaso from the ground up to be completely AI native. We restructured the company to include 2 roles, architects and operators. The architects are the people who design the systems. The operators are the people who operate the systems. And we're basically rebuilding every aspect of our business from the ground up. Like, one quick example is marketing. Our performance marketing used to be done by humans who would create ads, run the ads, analyze the data, and optimize, change the ads thereafter. Now that is a fully autonomous process with 0 humans. And we were able to cut our customer acquisition cost in half with no humans. So it's been really incredible, and it's enabling the humans to contribute in the ways that only humans can.
Right, and so do you think that this is creating more bandwidth in the organization, or are people just running a lot faster?
I think just running faster. If anything, it's created less bandwidth because you're capable of doing so much that the output of what we're creating is so much greater. But the expectation I set with my team is that all of us should become 10Xers, me included. Like nobody gets off. And by 10x, I don't necessarily know for sure if it's going to be 10x or 5x, but it's not going to be like a 20% improvement. It's going to be an order of magnitude improvement of productivity, and that's the expectation that I've set across the company.
What's been the hardest part of managing that change?
I would say the hardest part is getting people to overcome their fear and truly embrace a beginner's mindset. We basically have spent our entire lives perfecting our craft, and pre-AI, that experience was our differentiator. Like if you're a marketing executive and you spent 30 years in marketing, that 30 years is what defines you and makes you really unique. Well, thanks to AI, 90% of what we spend our whole lives learning is no longer relevant because AI can do it better or faster. So you have to be willing to accept that and go back to being a beginner again. And I actually wrote a book on this, and as like the playbook for our company, and I'm happy to share it, find a way to share it with you guys afterwards. But in the book, there's a chapter called Crossing the Chasm. If you all have read that book by Gordon Moore, it's a really also an incredible read. But when I first started learning about AI, I was fumbling around, and I kind of felt like an idiot because I was like learning all this stuff for the first time. And that's an uncomfortable feeling for people. So, but you have to do it. You have to fumble around and learn and feel like an idiot for a while until you cross the chasm. And once you get to the other side of it, your productivity goes up by 10x.
All right, I want to move over to Cheyenne. So Cheyenne, you talk about this AI-connected workforce. Explain what that means to the audience.
Well, I think for the past 20 somewhat years, we've been used to purchasing tools. And when you buy a tool, you have to pick it up and use it. When you have a workforce, the workforce just shows up and takes care of the job before you even ask for it, right? So I think there's a big difference in terms of what a tool is and what a workforce is. I think your example is a great one, right? You're using AI like as a workforce within the company. Now, the problem, I think, is that you have what we're seeing today. There's a lot of folks using AI, right? 70% or so people are paying for AI. But a fraction of those people are actually using AI, right? So maybe that's part of what you were talking about, 40%. And only 17% actually seeing a result of it. And part of that is because you have AI on top of 18, 20 different products. And none of them are really talking to each other. I call that a genius with amnesia. Really smart, but has no idea what's going on, no connection with your other data points. And when it's like that, you can't really get the work done. But when you have that all connected, then you can execute on workflow. So I'll give you an example. An agent's listing goes to the MLS. The agents sleep. Websites created, marketing campaigns created, ads are running, buyer agents are contacted. The agent wakes up not to see a to-do list of things to do, but the work that's actually got done for them. And I think that's a key difference here.
What's a signal that a brokerage is ready to take that first step? Because it can be pretty intimidating. The shifts that we're talking about, moving to architects and operators, it can be intimidating. Is it this rip a Band-Aid moment, or is it something more incremental?
I think it's more of a mindset thing. I think if you're trying to look for another interesting, cool tool or something fun with AI, then you're looking at it the wrong way. I think you need to ask yourself, it's got to do something. It's going to either save you cost on running the business. So I think what we're going to see in the next few years coming, brokers that are able to offer a ton of services, but at a much lower cost are the ones that are winning. And we see that happening in the marketplace today with a number of acquisitions that happened this year. So I think one of the things you should ask yourself, is it going to reduce the cost on anything, right? And usually within a brokerage, or these are marketing initiatives, these are back office initiatives, compliance. The other side of it is it going to help with growth? And that it means retention, recruitment. If you're not able to connect those dots, then or ask those questions, then you're not ready. But if you are, then I think everyone's ready. You should get into it.
If there's one role or department within a brokerage or a team that you think is ripest for AI implementation, what is it? Is it compliance? Is it marketing? Is it what team or role?
I do think that the two biggest departments we see today are marketing and back office. There's a lot of great ways that AI is being used to get the work done. And That's on the marketing side. It's helping agents to just operate at a different level without the brokerage having to scale up their marketing team. We service a lot of full service brokerages. These are brokers that do all the marketing work for the agents. And when they're using AI tools, they're saving about 40% of their time. And they can do a lot more work, right? So I think part of it is not, when we talk about 10x, it's you actually get more work done. On the compliance side, there's some really interesting implementations now. We're doing some stuff. Leo by Real is pretty cool, right? So they were able, and they had this on their call that when they announced Remax, that they're going to bring on another 130,000 agents, but they're not increasing their headcount to service those because they have this whole system that helps the agent. So you embed AI in all the forms, and it helps you, just be compliant before it even goes downstream to the broker.
For the average team or brokerage in the room, can you give a real-life example of one of these workflows, one of these AI pathways that can create that efficiency?
I'll give you an example that came up last week, which I liked a lot. So we got a video from this operational person, Michael, out of Pennsylvania. He works for the Serhant brand, and he needed to come up with they needed a whole bunch of way to process the compliance and reviewing the marketing collaterals and approving the marketing collaterals, things that we don't do inside our product. But he was able to go build all these stuff on his own on top of ReChat using our APIs and stuff, which is mind-blowing. Ryan probably had to hire an engineer and wait for 6 months for somebody to do that, whereas now they're able to implement that inside their office. I think one of the things that's happening is we've been used to, we've all sold software here for a long, long time. We sell products, and it's one size fits all. You're expected to fit yourself within our software. But I think one of the changes here is that we're going to see there's going to be, the cost of building software is going to zero. So you're going to see a lot of tools coming out, millions of software for millions of use cases, right? So you're going to kind of have what you need.
All right, on the topic of use cases, we talked about marketing extensively. I want to jump over to Divya and talk about some of the back office and compliance pieces of it, because I know that's something you're passionate about, and not everybody is. So talk to us about how you became so passionate about this part of the puzzle to solve and what it is that you focus on.
Yeah, arguably I have the most boring party conversations on what I do. But yeah, so I think just to take a step back, right, like a big problem, and many of you here are running brokerages and you're painfully familiar, is like 30%, more than 30% of your margin is just going to operating the business, right? And when you peel the layers on what it is, it's really people like chasing documents, making sure like, is everything in order? Did agent sign the thing they were supposed to sign? Did everybody actually get paid appropriately? And this involves legions of people behind the scenes whose job is to make sure like everything is moving in order. And it doesn't have to be so, right? Like in the software first world, the best we could do was give them a place to store the documents. In the AI first world, for the first time, we can actually read, understand, interpret, and do the work. So it's no longer, I got a bank deposit. It's now the model figuring out, okay, I got a bank deposit. It's for this transaction. It's for this agent. That agent has 3 team members. This is the split. And that work gets fully automated, right? So to me, it's exciting that like 70 to 80% of the work that many of the people are doing can be fully automated, which means you can free their time to do something more value added. As an example, right, like the bank deposit thing, we released this feature with one of our early customers, and the processor got on the call and she was like, Divya, this is Christmas morning. Like every day I would wake up and cut PDF and route it to people, and I don't have to do it anymore. It's minutiae, it's boring, but it's expensive.
So when we think about compliance and back office, a lot of people in the audience may have some anxiety about, well, it's important that this work gets done right. So if we're creating a flyer for a listing, that's one thing. If there's any hallucination or any inaccuracy, but when it comes to compliance, it could be somebody's job on the line or somebody's license on the line. When is it important to have a human in the loop? And also, do you see a future where you don't need a human in the loop?
Yeah, I think especially early on, as we are in the journey of building trust, it's super important to have human in the loop. Pretty much most of what we've built, even though our accuracy rates is like over 99.5%, which is much higher than a human actually reviewing those documents, what we've done is we've created a transparent process where any person in the company can go in and see why did this error get caught, what is this workflow, what happened, can I manually intervene, can I change the decision. So I think there's a lot of design decisions, people who are, like all of us, right, who are early in the AI adoption journey, like we need to earn the trust, and we need to make these design decisions to be able to earn the trust. And I think that's what we are leaning heavily into, and we are also customizing a lot to make sure people actually understand what's going on behind the scenes and the work that's getting automated they're comfortable with.
On our prep call, you were talking about identifying key moments in a transaction and how that could be revenue potential for everyone here in the room. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I think the beauty of this is when we started out, we were like, oh, we can read and understand everything, so let's go automate a lot of the work that people are doing. But increasingly, what we realized is we know exactly, because we are scouring through like all the hundreds of pages of documents that's coming through a transaction, we know exactly when someone needs a mortgage, we know exactly when someone needs an insurance, we know when the home inspection is due. So which means you all have affiliated businesses and you want to route like high value leads, but historically you've had to rely on people to figure out and pitch it at the right moment, and now AI can do that on your behalf, right? And brokerages are leaning heavily into this because this is the revenue increasing opportunity. It's not just the cost efficiency play, and that honestly is super exciting.
All right, I want to move over to Joe Rath. Joe was at Redfin for over a decade, and then of course Redfin sold to Rocket for $1.75 billion, and now Joe is leading industry relations for Rocket. Joe, tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, this data flywheel and some of the compounding advantages that creates for certain players in the industry, including Rocket.
Yeah, I think what you're hearing is it's not necessarily about the model itself, it's about the data that informs the model, and certainly the AI environment now really rewards scale. So obviously in bringing together Redfin and Mr. Cooper into Rocket family of companies, we have that scale, we have insights into not only search, but when somebody writes an offer on a property, when they get pre-approved, when they close, and even to the journey of when they own the home. So that's really the advantage for us, is having that scale too, but it really comes down to like a micro level too, where listing agents and brokerages have access to that data, where listings are kind of commoditized now, but the journey around the listing has a lot of value.
Interesting. So listings being commoditized, I just want to push back on that a little bit because we are seeing a more fractured landscape right now when it comes to listing data. I have some questions about where you think this is all going to end up, but before we get there, can you give a real example about how these listings are the training set and what that actually means for these LLMs and for these AI models?
Yeah, I think Divya touched on it, where like there's these different touch points, the listing being one of them and what happens around it. So the more insight we can give there and the more data that we have creates better insights. The better insights, the better recommendations. Better recommendations obviously create better customer interactions. And when you have customer interactions, that creates more proprietary data, rinse and repeat. So that's how we think about it.
And do you see a future where the big get bigger because they have the advantage of scale?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, it's sort of like the idea of bringing Redfin and Mr. Cooper together is to have insight into that whole journey so we really truly become a home ownership platform as opposed to just one part of it, search, closing, mortgage, and then servicing. Gotcha,
and what are the advantages that brokerages and teams and agents should be aware of for these companies? Like, how will it impact their business?
I think that that's where like I'm actually kind of concerned about like, or I just think that agents and brokerages especially should be more strategic about where their data goes. There are plenty of people that are trying to make a buck on that customer journey where, yes, listings are public, but the journey around it is very private. And agents and brokerages have access to that data. And so it's like, you have power there, and how are you going to use it? And how do we make sure we're partnering with companies that actually bring value to my business and aren't creating an additional layer in between me and that customer journey? I think there's some great products that bring you right alongside it, but I also just think like you should be thinking about how you bring value to it and what value are you getting in return from the companies you partner with.
In a similar vein, you have the listings themselves that are training the models, and then you also have all of the consumer demand data that is only made possible because of those listings. Rocket just did a deal with Compass. Sorry, Redfin just did a deal with Compass. Where do you see, and for anyone who's not familiar with that, right, the Compass listings are going to be shown on Redfin and not on other portals. Tell me, where do you see the listing landscape 5 years from now? Are we heading towards a more fractured, more splintered ecosystem that requires consumers looking at multiple websites to see the inventory?
I think so. I mean, we know from research that search is not zero sum anyway. Most people do visit multiple sites. I think it's like when you think about one part of that marketing, where it might be on one site for a period of time, but then it does go active into the MLS, where it gets distributed to all portals and all brokerage websites. I still think you can have both. I think you can have that marketing period where it's just available on one portal, and then eventually it goes to everybody if that's what the seller wants.
This is just an open question for anyone who wants to jump in, but what do you think the biggest impact AI will have on the residential real estate landscape? It's a broad question, intentionally so, but who wants to take that one to close us out?
I could take a pass at it. So I don't know that my answer is unique to the real estate industry. I think it applies to all industries. This is not just a tool that makes us more efficient. This is an entirely new way to live and a new way to work. It's bigger than the internet. It's bigger than the Industrial Revolution. It is massive. And it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And anybody I know that's gone through the process that I went through to like really go deep and learn how to vibe code and understand how it all works, like it's undisputable once you see it. So I would encourage everybody to cross the chasm, become a beginner again, get uncomfortable, and dig into what's possible, because we're in like the early days of the gold rush. And he and she who get to this advanced AI level first are the first ones with access to the gold mine.
I think I'm just going to add something quickly. I think we're going to see something, from my perspective, we see a lot of consolidation right now, the bigger getting bigger. I actually think part of that reasoning is because of the economies of scale and the costs of supporting the agents and running the business. With AI, that's going to collapse. So I think on the other side of it, in 24 months or so, we're actually going to see a lot more teams coming out, independents, just functioning on their own, and actually we're not going to end up with 3 big players, and we're going to end up with a whole bunch of little shops that can actually operate at the same level and support their agents at the same level because of the AI they have.
All right, it's a good place to wrap it up. Thank you so much to the panelists. Let's give it up.